And it looks like we're live now.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Koviki Talk. Nackie, you with me?
I'm with you.
Awesome. Amazing lineup we have today. Koviki Talk is a 21 episode series where we talk about all things COVID-19. Who knew that this would be this long into the year, and we are where we're at, right? So more important than ever to get good, accurate, timely information out. Koviki Talk talks about all things COVID-19, but we do it from a Pacific Islander perspective. So all of the guests and all of the speakers, including myself, my name is Carl, and your lovely host with me is Nackie. Good evening, Nackie.
Good evening.
So your hosts, your speakers, everybody's going to be a Pacific Islander. Very important to get the information out to our community from people who look and sound like us. So our guests this evening to talk to us about community health. Our first guest is Mai Tayone. Neomai was born in Tonga, October 7th, 1978. She currently works in the healthcare field for Kaiser Permanente. She also supports the efforts of the Asian Pacific Islander Forward Movement Community Health Worker Program. In 2000, she received a Bachelor's of Science, Business Administration, and MBA from La Sierra University. She's currently working on a second Master's of Marriage and Family Therapy program at Alliant International University to become a marriage and family therapist. This year, she started her own nonprofit called Affirming Pacific Islanders, API, based in Orange County, California, working directly with underserved Pacific Islander communities, providing mental health services, giving a voice to the voiceless victims of domestic violence and immigration services. Together, we can help change the world one case at a time. Good evening, Neomai. And Nackie, if you can introduce our next guest.
Yes, next, one of our panelists is Christopher Leon Guerrero Tenorio, and he goes by Chris. Chris is a community health worker for Asian Pacific Islander Forward Movement and a recent graduate from UCLA with degrees in sociology and Asian American studies. As a non-traditional student, he transferred to UCLA from De Anza College in 2017 after getting involved with his local Pacific Islander community through various student programs. Despite being born in Guam, Chris's interest in education was reignited through culturally relevant pedagogy that inspired his desire to reconnect with his Chamorro heritage and the broader Pacific Islander community at large. He hopes to pay forward the transformative aspects of his education by continuing to be a part of Pacific Islander movements, and perhaps one day will become a professor, inspiring others like him. Welcome, Chris.
Hello, happy to be here.
And our final guest is Papu Togafau, and Loto'olo Togafau and Dorcas Siofele are the parents of Papu Togafau, in which she would like to pay respects to them for shaping him into the person he is today. Papu is a recent graduate from UCLA with a bachelor's degree in sociology and currently works as a community health worker for Asian Pacific Islander Forward Movement. Welcome, Papu.
Hi, hello. Thank you for having me.
Yay.
It's great to have you all here. So community health, I think that, that's a very broad term. And I think that there's so many different things that go with that go kind of under that umbrella. It's nice to have kind of a wide range of different types of community service and community representatives with us today. And it's always nice to see guests that bring in kind of I'll put it this way, brings down the average age of Nackie and I being here in the room. So it's always nice to see the younger generation here.
I'm hecka young today.
It's how you feel,
yeah.
Right? So I guess I'll kind of turn it over to, I don't know, I'm going to just, we'll start with Chris and maybe give us an idea of what community health means to you in the way that you're working, and what's your A1 priority in what you do today?
Mm-hmm. I think health is like such a big word, right? And I think as far as community health and what I do, it's might be framed more for like physical health, and especially staying away from COVID. But I think it's easy to find that they kind of go one on one with mental health and just overall like holistic health and how people are doing. And that's we definitely encounter that in APIFM. And that's, I think that community health to me is more like holistic, and that's what I try to address as a health worker.
And what are you doing specifically? Like, what is in your day to day that you're doing right now that relates to the PI community?
So we do a lot. In general, we because to address COVID-19, we are a team of about 15 individuals who represent different parts of the Pacific Islander community. We have people we have Marshallese individuals, Tongan individuals, Chamorro individuals, and Samoan individuals, and Hawaiian individuals. And we kind of basically reach out to our own communities and check out. It is I like to think of it more of as a check-in, because it can be a little bit, you have to be a little bit smart in how you engage with your own community, because everybody comes from different backgrounds. But we essentially, reach out to them. We do food distribution and just try to do our best to make sure that everybody's being all right during COVID, which is our specific project.
Awesome. We'll kind of go around the horn on this with this. Papu, what specific, is there a specific community, like geographically, that you're supporting in your day-to-day, and then like what's your focus?
Well, for me, like my main focus working with APIFM has definitely been working with the food distribution part of the community. So we've created partnerships between like smaller farmers and partnerships with the community members with different organizations. So a lot of it is the Pacific Islander community. It was like like how Chris mentioned, was some of the Marshallese churches or groups that we would distribute food to. Same with the Tongan churches and the Samoan churches and some of the Hawaiian churches out there. And like what we've done is like we've kind of just created these relationships between them first through the food distribution, and then like finding out like the needs in the community during this time. So like basic needs definitely have to always be met, and the food is the one thing that we focus on, but it's not the only thing. So getting to learn more about things that are going on involving like healthcare and accessibility for that, or just like how impacted the community is itself in regards to like how Pacific Islanders have been like very strongly impacted by COVID-19, and providing different resources available for them. Like as a CHW, like we call different community members, like how Chris mentioned, and we try to see like what does this specific family need and help. Like, is it the fact that they don't have access to maybe just like simpler things like masks or hand sanitizer, or maybe they need access to food distribution, or maybe they just need to know where they can get tested for free because healthcare isn't something that they have, or they don't necessarily have the money to spend on things like that. Maybe there's other bills that they're working on, like maybe housing. So a lot of what we do is connecting them to the resources that not only do we provide, but just that we know are available for them, like in general.
Yeah, I think the sometimes the bare necessity, housing and food. Sometimes people miss we're thinking about where will I get the vaccine, or, kind of things second and third steps down the road. Whereas when you're living, maybe paycheck to paycheck, just getting the food and the shelter, people need to remember that that's the first piece of it. And that very well could have been interrupted by the pandemic. That's awesome. We'll definitely come back to you, Nackie.
Right. Neomai, are you what have you seen in the work that you're doing? And now that, we're in California, we're starting to lock down again. Are you finding it consistent that PIs are needing more help, or are we just flattening out? It's like ongoing, or do you find the numbers are rising now?
Thank you so much for this opportunity. As I'm sitting here, it was hard for me to get up and get ready. My family has been impacted. We found out last week that we are positive for COVID. So when you ask this question, I'm going to tell you from my own experience. We are getting it, and it's spreading so fast in our community because we all live in multifamily. I live with my parents. And they have both been compromised. My mom is on dialysis. My father has heart problems. He's a survivor of cancer. And unfortunately, I'm glad I am on this talk. I didn't know I would be positive by the time I'm speaking here, but some of our people still have not, it hasn't gotten to them. And unfortunately, once it does, it's too late.
Right.
So my family, my entire family household has it. My mom has been admitted, and this is why it's important to, on my daily outreach, is to talk about and constantly have open dialogue with Tongan people, in which is the community I've been outreaching to. So I just think it's important when they do see a Tongan woman speaking about it, it makes it a little bit more real, because our family isn't disproportionately affected because of the fact that we all live together. We're multi-families, you know, we constantly love being together. So two of my family, another household has been impacted with this. So it's just kind of hard because I'm still trying to recover from this. I've been in bed for the past couple days. So I'm kind of documenting my own COVID diary. And I came in here to tell you all that it's so difficult. It's so difficult to go through. I'm not able to see my mother. She's admitted in the hospital. So this work is so critical. And if we don't talk about it, we just lose people in silence. So I think food is some way of opening up. It's like a hello, you know, because people don't really want to talk about it because of fear. But when we have provided them with, you know, like gift cards or food, it's kind of like, oh, thank you. And then we say, hey, do you need some masks? Do you need do you have, you know, access to care? So it opens up this opportunity for us to work with them, because I feel in our community there's such a lack of trust, and this is why going into mental health, I hope to bridge that gap with our community. So thank you, Nackie.
Thank you for being here. I think you're right that people that this hasn't affected, for them to see faces that look like them talking about having COVID and having your mother in the hospital. And people don't realize that when your mother or your father goes into the hospital, you can't go sit by their bedside. You can't hold their hand. You can't go get them a glass of water. You know, usually when our elders or someone that we love is in the hospital, we sit there. We have somebody sit in the hospital 24/7, right? Go get their water, go tell the nurse to do that. But when they're by themselves, you worry. Are they getting water? You know what I mean? So I'm so sorry to hear that. I too have COVID. My whole family tested positive. And so I totally understand what you mean, being tired, but I luckily my family hasn't gone into the hospital, but that is my biggest worry, that a loved one gets COVID and goes into the hospital and I can't sit by their bed to help them. You got me crying, sorry.
That's two powerful Pacific Islander women on the show right now that have personally been affected by COVID-19, that have had getting over or currently have COVID-19. Thank you both for, you know, sharing. I think Nackie's right. It is important for people that don't get the message to hear it from people that look and sound like them. I think that's a big piece of it. And sometimes, you know, social media can be, it's a quick way to distribute information, but it's also a quick way to, like, I'll see social gatherings and I get the funerals and the celebrations and those kind of things, but I will see things on social media where I just look at it and go, like, nobody's masked. There's people that are, shoulder to shoulder, or they're masking their shoulder to shoulder, but they're in a room and they're in a small room with a whole bunch of people. And I just look at that and I that's why I love having these kind of talanoas where we get to really talk about it. And it's not somebody that, it's somebody that can relate to it. So, thank you so much, both you and Nackie, for sharing this. So either Papu or Chris, this question is kind of directed at you guys. Are you seeing? So there's issues with we do have comorbidities, right? We're more likely to have hypertension, high blood pressure, diabetes, obesity. Do you see any long-term kind of vision of kind of a realization of, hey, I need to walk more, I need to eat better, I need to, like, lifestyle kind of things? Or are we just in the moment right now, rightfully so, where we're just trying to get through COVID-19 and then look at those things later?
So I definitely think they're related, right? Right, and but I do feel that it's more towards the latter, where we're just trying to deal with COVID right now, and then hopefully this will open, everyone's eyes a little bit more to address those other health concerns right now. But I also feel that the emotional weight of COVID, and just addressing everybody's pain and unfortunate situations, I think takes priority, personally, for the community work right now.
Okay.
And are you finding I'm sorry, are you finding that there are enough supplies for the people that you're providing food for, cleaning supplies?
I mean, from what I've experienced, like the food we give, it's definitely well received, and like the gratefulness on everyone's faces is always a blessing. Like when they, like, because we keep contact, like, as far as possible. So like we load their cars, we ask them to stay like in the front, and we'll load like either the back of the truck. But like it's never enough at the end of the day. Like if we could get more funding to help our community, then that's exactly what we should have. There's no one else out there like trying to put in the work for our community like APIFM is. Like APIFM, like we're perfectly fine with like getting donations, like, and we have them from like a ton of organizations and funders in order to buy like the groceries that we give out, like the produce, or even the PPE that we pass out to different community members, such as like hand sanitizers or masks, and or different items that they can use like to sanitize like their own their own houses, like the spray, right? Like, and we have those things, but we can always have more, because we know that like the things that we do, like, they have an impact, because you won't see gratefulness like the gratefulness that you do on their faces if you didn't know it meant something. But like if like there's any other orgs out there or any funding bodies like who are willing to donate, like we can always take more and to do more for our community, like, and to know that like they're definitely going to the right place.
Yeah, I think so actually this question is for all three of you. Are you seeing private donations on a significant basis, where, I always hear things about, Target or Walmart or big companies that talk about, donating or getting involved at the community level. Have any of you or all of you seen anything significant from the private sector, or is most of it state funded, government funded?
Yeah, we receive certain private donations from like different hospitals and other companies. Like we get some things from Albertsons, right? Like as the grocery store, and then especially like recently we had a gift card program, and the gift cards were they were from the county, but which is like from LA County, and what we were able to do was provide like the NHPI families out here in LA who qualified for the program with like about with like money to go either to Vons or Albertsons, and like I think it was the other store was Northgate, and there's like a bunch of subsidiary stores that are also available. But like being able to give those gift cards was definitely like super huge for the families, because like how we talked about basic needs earlier, like they're so worried about this basic need and that basic need and trying to weigh them. The fact that we could remove one from their list and let them focus on another, I know was a super huge blessing. And they made that known to us. Like that was the biggest thing, was like, thank you so much. Like this is God's work, right? It's not just community work. This is God's work to love each other and help out where we can. And like there's other hospitals like Cedar Sinai Hospital, like that has helped out with like the PPE, and then just providing us with things to like share with our community members, because for like APIFM, I feel is like just really unique in regards to like it's a program like that serves NHPIs by NHPIs. And it's like, you're not just getting like a handout, we're helping each other, because this is family. Like we're all a village. We all have been raised by a village, and we're all part of villages that are raising other people.
That's encouraging. That's encouraging to hear. How about you, Chris? Have
I'm
you
sorry?
seen private donations as well as public? The way that I mean, that's really encouraging to hear that like things like grocery stores specifically are getting involved, because the food and shelter are so basic. Are you seeing the same thing on a significant level with private donations?
I've seen, I mean, just to reiterate what Papu said, just the donations that come from hospitals and certain companies and Albertsons. I'm not really too privy on donations from, private donations, but it really all depends on the partners that we end up working with, and making sure that we cultivate good relationships.
Definitely.
Awesome. Neomai, are you finding it where you're helping out? Are you getting enough donations? I mean, I know we're saying it's never enough, but do you find that there's a shortage of anything? And if so, it gets replenished right away?
I think in our community, there's always a shortage in everything.
Yeah.
I don't think at any time in my own life, I remember my mom, bless her heart, she would have to like find these food distributions just so that we can have enough to kind of pass over to the next time my dad gets paid, because my dad, he did construction, he was a landscape, he was a gardener. So it was kind of really hard during these winter times, because it was a seasonal type job. And so I know that we don't get enough. And this is why community work is so critical, because I used to remember we never bought like, certain type of, it was all generic. And so I know it meant a lot when some of these foods were like kind of cool, like foods that we had for snacks. So I know from when I was young, we struggled. And I know even till today, a lot of the people that we did give, these the help with the food, we can only provide some of them because we didn't have enough. So it's important that the community understands that we still need private donors. We need, in every way, we are impacted. And sometimes we as Pacific Islanders, we just, we suffer in silence. I know that because we've been taught, don't ask for it. Don't ask for, anything. Just be happy with what you get. And I think this type of work is really important, because I feel at times, and our team they have been so enthusiastic giving their time. I mean, we spent countless hours doing testing, and for example, Malo is a nonprofit that we are partnered with that had testing yesterday. And because I live with one of my nephews that I didn't have access to his health care, I needed to get him tested because he's been exposed to us too. And so having that testing site in Riverside was such like it gave me such relief because I couldn't go inside with my son and my nephew. Sorry, I had to text my cousin who was running it. I said, they're there in the front. I can't come in. I don't want to expose anyone. But just knowing that someone was there, our own people were there to like, you know, like to a warm handoff to take my son in, to take my nephew in. Because as a mother, just as you spoke about, you know, my mom being in the hospital, it is true. I'm usually the one that's right there by her, sleeping next to her. And just like that, I always want to be with my son. I want to walk my nephew in and make sure, you know, they do these things correctly, that they're, you know, that no one's trying to stop them because of whatever barrier it is. And so that's why it was important to have even like Malo give these tests, because I honestly, I went on to county, I tried to get an appointment. I couldn't get any appointment because it was already exhausted by the time I had signed up. So when I think about things, it is so critical that we have these programs, that we have our own Pacific Islanders, because honestly, when I initially got tested for COVID, I waited 3 hours at Kaiser.
Wow.
So it was just so relieving to have access, you know, from a Pacific Islander nonprofit organization to give this to me. So thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Mike, what inspired you to start your nonprofit organization? Was there an event, or was there you know, an experience or something that you said, hey, you know, there's a need for this?
So about 5 years ago, I was involved with this family that didn't really have any access to like their basic rights. Long story short, the wife had received a summons for divorce, and so this is like our women. We just try to cooperate, not knowing our rights. Her husband, you know, had filed a divorce, and she didn't know anything. He had did so much to remove her from the title of their home. So her only reaction was to cooperate and then just kind of divorce and leave. And when I you know, got a whiff of this, I told her, well, as you know, I started to give her some of her rights as a woman in California. Not a lot of people were aware, or they're not aware about community property here in California. So when I was able to shed this information, you know, she was able to, you know, basically I helped her fill out the, you know, the documents that she needed. And I found out that she is not my only client that I've been helping. There has been other women that have been abused by the empirical system. So it's important when I talk about affirming Pacific Islanders, I'm really clearly saying we don't empower people, we affirm their own power that they already have. She had all the rights. She just needed to know. And I think that that's all I do. I sit there and say, hey, you have rights. This is what you need to do. Whether we need to hire a lawyer, but I give them hope to say, hey, you don't need to cooperate. Because sometimes these systems are not built to help women. These systems were built to silence us, to keep us in, basically in pain. And this is why the Affirming Pacific Islanders, I have worked with a lot of women and their children just to help affirm their power. So it's really important that we get involved, because a lot of times when we hear this, you know it, hey, so-and-so just got served with the divorce. And everybody just starts talking like, oh, that's what she gets. That's what she gets.
Right.
You know, what did she do? They don't even question the man. They always put the shame on the women. And this is why my work is very critical, because I'm giving them their voice, their power back. So that's why it's just like all the different partnerships that we've had with Malo. Now that I've started API, now we can, you know, push forward together to help our people, to give them a voice. So I found that this work is, there's so much work out here, but I'm willing to you know, to be there, just to hold their hand. I think that that's really what it is. Just be present, hold their hand, listen to them, feel their pain, and go from there.
I think that's advocacy, right? You got people who don't know how to navigate certain systems. They don't know the administration piece of it, or the whole bureaucratic part of systems and programs. And to have an advocate that isn't afraid to say, hey, I don't understand this form. Like, what is this? When I do this, what's the next form? Or when will I know whether this happened? Or those kind of things. Those are huge, because it takes all a lot of that unknown piece of it away. So there definitely is a need for that. And that's an inspiring story to hear, that you realize how quickly that there was that need. And then, you tried to fill it by creating a nonprofit organization. So thank you. Thank you for that.
We have
Nackie.
we have a question in the chat from Icona Leafa Itulangi. And this is to everyone, what can parents do to protect themselves when pressured to go to funeral, go to a family event? When does blind loyalty end and the truth of our lives surface? Well, anyone can.
Okay, I know I spoke before, but I wanted to share how I got it. And so it is, one of my family members went to a funeral and came back really sick. Unfortunately, the family did not test him, and we unfortunately, I live with the daughter, and so my whole family got impacted. And so to answer the question, you got to think to yourself. And I always thought about this Bible text that Jesus had referred to, and says, let the dead, bury themselves. What we don't understand is that we are still alive, and we have to consciously be present to understand that, we can impact our weakest, like my parents. Like we haven't went to funerals, we haven't went to weddings. But unfortunately, somebody, had compromised all of this. And so, now we're going through this tsunami in our lives. But it's the question is, like, do you still want to live, and do you want your family to survive this? How important is it going to a funeral? But, when you have to weigh it, it should never be a question of what you should do. I think that's all common sense.
Right. We think that, right? We think that, oh, it's common sense. We just won't go, don't gather. But because of our culture, we find it so hard not to go show our face, and it's a sign of respect for us to be there. But I also feel like, we have to live to praise another day, right? We have to live to see the rest of our family members another day. And like, Neomai, you live with your parents. I think what people should understand is that no matter how safe you are, if you have to go to work, like I have to go to work, I don't know how safe my coworker is, you know what I mean? So you really have to protect yourself. And if you have elders living in your home, because we do live in multi-generational homes, that we have to be super careful, especially PIs, our numbers are like rising like crazy. So thank you, Neomai, for that. Chris, do you have any kind of, I don't know, maybe advice or suggestion for that?
Yeah, that's really tough. I've been lucky enough to avoid any funerals since COVID has started. But I mean, I do know that it's difficult. I feel the holidays just passed. I know they're not the same as funerals, but we've all had different conversations, talking to our families, saying that, I don't want to see you because I love you. right? Because I care for you is such a difficult message to get across and
Right.
within certain contexts. And I think that's really what it kind of boils down to, right? Is understanding that I'm doing this not because I'm scared of the virus, no matter how much we feel about it, but it's really out of respect and out of love, so that we have more opportunities to see each other, right? And to hopefully shorten this pandemic, and just to make sure that we're all still in check, because we're all still suffering.
Right. Thank you, Chris. Papu.
Sorry, my bad. Is okay. Just wanted to make sure I was coming through.
Good.
Yeah, it was really hard because in February, at the beginning of this year, I lost my dad, and
Sorry.
yeah, whew, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't get it. Yeah,
Don't apologize.
It's still
Don't
fresh.
apologize.
It's still, just happened, Papu.
yeah, but yeah, that question is that hit home because I had to have the same talk with my mom and my relatives because my dad he was a chief, so with the culture, you can't just lay them to rest. You have to do the father of laves. You have to have the family meetings. You have to do the melofas, and you have to have them at the house. And it was hard trying to balance everything that was going on with COVID, because at the beginning of the year there were so many different policies, so many different changes. When we wanted to have my dad's service, is originally at the church we were allowed to have 100 people, and then the next day it was 50 people, and then the day after that they said like 10 or nothing. And then it got to the point where it was nothing and we weren't even allowed to hold a service. So it was like the family was trying to balance the culture and the government and their own health, because a lot of our family members are older, especially my mother and my auntie, who was trying to plan everything out. And we kind of just decided to do something at my older cousin's house, because he has a very large house. We tried to do it in the open area, so that way like circulation for the air. But what we decided was we were going to do the culture, but we were going to do it as safely as possible. So when we asked families to come, we told them to like only come with like 2 or 3 representatives, and then just we would do the normal like the meeting, and then like they would give the envelope and we would give the gifts back, like of the family, to show our love as well as they showed theirs. And then just ask, like, they came with masks, that they wore their hand sanitizer, and that like they came to us, but only after they like were quarantined for a while, like to not like, please don't go to like a family event, get super exposed, and then come over to here, because we're just trying to be as safe as possible. But it was hard because families, like, they'll still come because, like how you said, like they want to show face. And so like, yes, there was like more members that came, but we asked them like, just stay in the cars, like we know the love that you have for our dad just driving out here, but like please, like if you can stay in the cars and like just wait out in the road while whatever representatives you have to show will be there. But it was hard talking to my mom about everything, because to her it didn't matter, she just wanted to show as much love for my dad as possible. And that's the talk that I've had to have with her recently too, because his 1 year is coming up. But with the way that COVID's looking right now, it's going to be very much the same in regards to not being able to celebrate the way we want to.
Right.
But me and my sisters have been talking to my mom, and it's kind of like, maybe it's okay that way. Maybe we'll have the time where it's just me, my mom, and my siblings, and it'll just be us and my dad. Like, it's hard, and that's not what she wants. And I know the family really wants to show out for each other, but maybe that's God's plan, right? That at this point in time, it'll just be us.
Yes.
And that's okay. Like, it's a hard balance, but it's all love. And at the end of the day, like, for those that have passed, all we can do now is share their memories with each other, but we have to take care of who's still here.
Right.
And we have to make sure that we're still safe and that we're still able to carry that memory. And I've had to have that talk with my mom a lot, but it's been good. She's slowly coming around, but I still have to remind her every time we leave that she has her mask on, and that even if it's just something quick like the grocery store, like I try to tell her, like, Mom, you don't have to come in. Like, I know how to shop. Like, stay in the car. Like, I just want to get her out the house sometimes, because like for her and the elders in our community, like being around each other was a really important part of the community. But I just had to remind her, like, Mom, like, and I felt bad, like, because it's kind of like having to guilt her. But, you know, I told her, I was like, I've already lost a dad. Like, I want to keep you too, like, for as long as I can. So, like, let's do this, you know, let's take this COVID for what it is and keep pushing through. So, like, that's just what I want everyone to know is, like, take heed, like, it's real. And the consequences are also real. And like, love is always there, but, you know, you can show it in different ways, like phone calls. Like, my mom is on the phone 24/7 now, and our phone bill is super high. So, and that's okay, you know, like, as long as she gets to talk to my auntie or talk to her cousins, just wherever they are, like, it's little things like that, like, where, you know, it's hard for now, but we'll get through it. You know, we've gone through so many other things, but with the help that we have, like, with each other, with our communities, with orgs like APIFM, and the work that we do, like, as a community, as Pacific Islanders, like, we've navigated so much more in the past, and we'll continue to navigate through these things as well.
Thank you, Papu.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
Respect to you for finding a way to navigate that. Thank you for sharing that and sharing, you know, a special time that you and your family have. Respect and love to your father. And to, you know, that's a tough talk. I mean, that's just the way that you went through it is that's how it is. It's tough. It's not something where you can just say, well, I'm not going to any other funerals. Well, you know, if it's your father, then all of a sudden, well, this one's different. You know what I mean? Like, there isn't a one size fits all solution for the cultural issues that conflict with COVID-19. And I think that you did an amazing job of just expressing just how, you know, no, we need to do something, but we need to do it safely. So how do we, you know, navigate that as best we can? And it's just like that. It's just the way that I was thinking as you're going through that, it was just, there was no easy way to talk about how do you pay respect? How do you tell people, look, we know that you're showing up, but stay in the car. So all of those kind of things, you know, that's the tough conversations that we need to have, because just like the person that asked the question in the chat, how do you do that? How do you balance that? You keep your own safety, your personal safety in place, but still be, you know, still be good with the culture and your family and your loved ones and all those. Those aren't easy things to do. And I think that, you know, when it comes down to it, the one thing that we control the most is social distancing, right? Like, we don't wear a mask, but, you know, that's not the safest. You know, you can still catch it through the mask if you're in contact with somebody for a long period of time. But social distancing is the one thing we can say, look, I'm going, or I'm not going, or I'm staying 6 feet away, and those kind of things. But it's just not, it's a gray area. So thank you, Papu, for sharing a very emotional time in your life. Real quick, I wanted to jump back to, because I saw this earlier on and we haven't asked it yet. Chris, you had talked about in your bio about possibly wanting to go on and become a professor at some point. Is there a particular subject that you would like to be teaching at some point, or is that professors as far as that thought goes?
Anything that pisses people off would be what I would teach people, more or less. And I think that's just because I think I kind of have, you know, my reconnection, and it's such a common story through education, right? And wanting to reconnect with my culture, my background, my family, and just my community, right? Because it can be very isolating. And then for me, education was the spark that kind of lit that fire. And then that's where I kind of dedicate all my energy into now. But I imagine it's not an uncommon story for a lot of people in our community. But yeah, it'd be if I piss people off, I guess I would just say, like, learning about our own history, learning about the systems that put us in these positions, why, kind of just addressing So, like if we just look around our own communities and see, why are we suffering from COVID so much? Why are we doing this? And just asking questions, and then understanding that it's all tied to history and material relations. And that's what I would like to pretty much teach, and not just, of course, limited to our community, but they would definitely be in my mind.
Awesome. And Neomai, with your and with your parents or your mother being in the hospital, and we were talking about, I was thinking of the way that Papu explained how his father passed away, and how he had to explain to his mother how we shouldn't gather, and this is for you. Did you have a hard time having that conversation with your parents during the pandemic? Like, I think because my family and I'm doing Koviki talk every Monday, right? So you think I would know, don't do this and don't do that. And look, I got COVID, right? And so I find that the talk, when the pandemic first started, that was our talk. Wear the mask, social distance. And now that it's so real to us, like, I never want to feel this way again. I'm having this talk again, but it really sunk into us now. Like, okay, for real, Christmas, I have 5 kids and my kids are grown. So, and I'm telling them, you cannot come over Christmas unless you test negative coming to the house, which is such a hard thing for me because I want my babies with me. But I also want us to live to celebrate other Christmases. Did you have a hard time explaining to your parents about the pandemic? Because I feel like the older generation doesn't quite understand. At least that's what I think. Did you have a hard time explaining to your parents that we need to stay still, don't go nowhere?
Okay, so it wasn't my parents that had a hard time, with this. It's really the young people. My parents got it right away. And actually, every time like someone went out, they're like, hey, why are you guys leaving? Why are they going to the store? So really, my parents have always been this guiding light for us, and we didn't listen to them. And so it was really them telling us. And this is the impact that it did have, is that we caused this on them. We put this disease on them because they were very careful. My parents were hermits for the past 8 months. And it was really my fault. I take the blame for this because I should have been more careful. You lay in bed sick and you think like, hey, I should have told them to test him. Oh gosh, I wake up going, man, they should have tested. Like, it drives you crazy because like, now that mom, like she'll call from the hospital asking for my dad to pray for her because she's like having fever, she's disoriented. Unfortunately, like she's going through these things and they had to tie her hand to the bed because they said that she was so disoriented, she wanted to get out. But I think my mom just thought she was at home and she wanted just to get out of bed. So it was really just the young people. And that's why I think that it's critical for us to know it is us that will endanger and impact our mothers and our fathers and the most vulnerable of us. Because my parents, they got it right away. They reminded us every time, wear your mask, hand sanitize, come and wash your hands, take off your clothes, So the question was really just, I should have been more vigilant. I should have been more careful. I should have, you sit and should have, could have, would have, but it's too late. Right now, we're just asking, God to just be with our mother and, my father here, who was a survivor of cancer, aneurysm, and heart. So, pray for us. It's not easy, but, this is why it's important. I'm coming here to tell you guys it's real. No one wants to go through this. No one wants to have their mom calling and saying, I love you, because she doesn't think she's going to make it. And then hearing my dad going, I can't breathe well. And I'm like, I have a talk at 5. I'll do it right after that. But you know, it's something that we're just kind of like in denial. I think our people just until they get it, then they're like, okay, this is real. But we are such deniers, and I'm guilty of, you know, not being careful. So I just want you guys to learn a lesson from my experience. And you know, if you are exposed, if you go to a funeral, just come back in quarantine. That could have easily prevented my mother and father from catching it, my whole family. So we got to do better.
Yeah, got to do better. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Neomai.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Your parents are in our thoughts and prayers. Um, and I am a cancer survivor, and I live my life by a mantra I call "waste no minutes." So I've only got so many minutes in my life, whether I'm gonna step off a curb tonight and get hit by a bus and die, or whether I'm gonna die from cancer, or whether I'm gonna live for 30 more years or whatever. All my minutes are, once they're gone, and I never get them back. So for you to be sharing those precious minutes with us before you're going to go spend some minutes with your father on the phone, or you're going to spend some time with your parents on the phone, we thank you so much for sharing the minutes with us and sharing your experience with us, because these are the messages that get heard. Graphs are great, PowerPoint slides are wonderful, but if you're going to get somebody to feel the message, it's going to be from somebody talking about it and making you feel it in your heart. So thank you. So one of the things that Nackie and I learned, when people say, like, what is it about the podcast that might surprise people? Like, what about, doing the work and with Poly by Design might surprise people? And one of the things that we learned was, and we always try to come on, you might have noticed we came on as late as possible in the pre-show. So there was very little conversation between us and you, because the best stories happen. We found out that the best stories happened before the show started. So we would meet with people before we interview them, and we'd have these great talks about their parents, or about their father passing away, or about, you know what I mean? Like these things. And then we'd have those conversations before the show started. Then we start the show and we try to get people to talk about it again. And it didn't feel right. That felt like, look, I've already told you this story. So that's something that really surprised me with Poly by Design. Is there anything that in community work that you found yourself surprised by, now that you've been really in the trenches where the rubber meets the road in community work? Is there anything the three of you have come across where you're like, wow, I would have never, like, that's surprising to me in the role that I play with the community? And that's just open if anybody had, that's just an open question to anybody.
I'll try to go first. For me, honestly, like, it wasn't surprising, but it was, like I said earlier, like, it was a blessing. Just seeing how happy people were for the things that we do. Especially like for the grocery bags that we give, like, it's like maybe like 10 pounds of food to the families, and it's like one per family. And like, to just know that, like, it's something like that, like, it's really big for them, but I always feel like we can do so much more. And like, just knowing that we can bless them like that is beautiful. Like, to know that it's something that I've always wanted to do, because I feel like my parents have raised me to be a servant, like, to lead with a servant's heart, and to just do what I can for the people around me. Because like, you're raised by a village, but that doesn't mean like you're only being raised alone. Like, you can always give back to the village while it's also raising you. And like, for the work that we do, the surprising thing for me was like how hard it is, like, to get funding for things like this.
Oh my gosh, right?
Because I'm like, I don't understand how someone could know that these things are there, like, that these problems exist, and that there's things going on in our community, like the problems that we spent like almost the last hour discussing, and still feel like, okay, like, maybe they're not going to get that much funding. Like, if you could just, like how Neomai said with everything else, we're doing the work, and we're down to do the work. There's so many of us who are ready and able and willing. All we need is the money to make these dreams come true, like, to have the funding available to like create more programs like this, to give even more money like, or more food, like, to the families, to provide more resources. Like, we're all here, like, we're all doing the work, and there's plenty more people who are willing to do it. It's just creating more infrastructure, creating more spaces like Koviki Talk, like, where it's our people talking about our problems and how to solve them. And then honestly, like, it doesn't have to be our money. We can use other people's money. That's fine.
Right.
As long as, like, we get these things done. Like, I just want to do more like this. And it has been a huge blessing in my heart to know that, like, we're really making a good impact.
Awesome.
Thank you, Papu. Chris?
Yeah, so Papu's kind of spoke a little bit on how rewarding it is to, you know, actually help people. But for me, what was surprised me, it's rewarding to kind of just be part of a team and see a bunch of familiar faces and feel like everybody kind of has each other's back, and then getting to know people on a different level. And for me, it's actually just I like feeling like I'm making a difference or feeling useful. Right, that's really important to me and what I do and what I dedicate my energy to. And that's pretty much it. It's just nice to be part of a community while helping your community.
Yeah, that's a great feeling. And I love where Papu says that someone has two things on their list, and if we can help them get one thing off their list, it's an amazing feeling to know that you're helping. And to some people that are donating it, oh, it's, we'll donate food, but they don't know that how much that's helping. We never know what a family is going through, right? So if we can help them with one thing off their list, it's $1 million for them. So thank you. Neomai?
Honestly, the people are great. The community, I think that is always because we're, like, we're relational, and it doesn't matter what it is. When you see a Pacific Islander, you're going to have a good conversation. You're going to have a great talanoa. I think in everything starts from grassroots. I think this is where we need to unite. One thing I want to say is the community is doing, like, for us, they need the help. But what I did realize is that there is still bureaucracy and there's burnt out leadership in a lot of our community, upper, those that have access to money. You come find out that there's a lot of money, but there wasn't people to help release that money. And I think that is, that can be an issue when it comes to community work, that sometimes people and their egos get into, they block it for people. With our team, we've had some enthusiastic young people, and sometimes, I wouldn't say I'm young, but even I am intimidated by some of the leadership that might, disregard some of our help, may trivialize it. And I think that's where we really need to come and unite, is continue on the grassroots movements. Little organizations like mine, Malo, they've dropped off, food, they've dropped off, supplies for us, they've grocery shopped. I mean, this is where it's at. And if you are a leader out there, whether it's community work or a church leader, you really need to like, if you can't feel the pain of the people, and I think that people in those kind of leaderships, they need to ask the question to themselves: what am I doing? Am I even helping? A lot of our church leaders have not helped our family, and unfortunately, this is our reality. They need us to donate to them, but when it comes to, like, just to us, when we need help, it's unfortunate. But that's why the problem really that I see is not really like people, it's leaders, and they need to recognize that, and we need to do better, and we need to unite. We need to come together and offer these fundings, offer these, let the children come and let them work, let them handle it. They've got degrees, they've got, vast knowledge. I've learned so much from Chris and Papu, just, in the last couple weeks than I have, with a lot of my, my friends, years. They are very intelligent, and They have so much great ideas. This is why we need to release it and let the kids run this show, because they're doing such a great job. You should have seen, like, when we pulled up to get, some of the gift certificates, they were running back and forth, just to see that spirit, that enthusiasm. This is why the work is not for the old, the work is for the young. And I
Yes.
commend them. And this is why I'm here. I want to say I'm kind of an oldie, but I'm young in spirit. And this is what keeps me young. And that's why I'm so grateful to work with such young people, because I've learned so much. And even going back to school and getting the second master's, I feel like, wow, I didn't learn this the first time around, but learning this again, it's like learning it like a brand new baby coming into a high school student coming into, like college. And that's why I'm grateful, because you can never stop learning. That's something that is constant in our life. We are lifetime learners. So I thank you.
Thank you, Neomai. We have one more question that's in the chat. There's learning about Papu's work as a CHW, his commitment to taking care of his family, and his heavy involvement in Inland Empire PI COVID work, making himself available to work both monthly testing events in Paris and Riverside. This person is curious to know, with all that's on all of your plates, everyone, how do you each decompress and take care of yourself? And we'll start with Papu.
Well, first and foremost, glory to God, honestly.
Right.
I pray on it continuously, that that God will provide me with the strength and the knowledge and the heart that I need to serve the community like we do, and to just show love at the forefront of all that I do and all that I am, and to represent not only my faith in God, but also the upbringing of my parents, and to let them know, like, when people see me, like, they're not just looking at me, they're looking at the culmination of my parents' teaching and of the village that I come from. And so that in and of itself, like, helps me decompress a lot, to know that, like, when we were passing out those gift cards, or when we're giving this food distribution, that when they see me and they see, like, what I'm doing, like, it's good to know that, like, in my heart, like, I'm here for the right reasons, and I'm also doing the right thing. And that in and of itself is self-care for me, like, taking care of the community and showing that love, and just knowing that it's helping people. That's my self-care. Like, at the end of the day, like, it was really early mornings last week, waking up and then driving down to Compton for the gift cards or for the food distributions. But, like, I felt awake and alive, like, as the day went on, and as we talked to more people who were just so grateful and so loving. Like, so many older aunties and uncles were just saying how much, like, they love me, or how grateful they were for the things that we're doing. And, like, honestly, like, it's not of me, like, it's from API FM, they and Karina, and then our boss Hang Lam Fung, like, who secured the funding, like, from LA County, and let us do that. I was just there, was just making sure that the card went to the right person, you know. But, like, to talk to people and for them to know that, like how Neomai said, like, there's younger kids like us out here trying to do this work, that makes me feel good enough to continue to do more and want to do more. And, like, that's my blessing, and that's how I take care of myself.
It's amazing how your passion can fuel you, right? So when you're dead tired, like, you work 15 hours and got up the next day and worked another 12, and you're going to bed, it's like you're dead tired. But if you were doing the stuff that you love, like, it's a good tired, like, it's a good exhausted, as opposed to, I see people that go to work and they hate their job. And I'm like, you got to go find another job or something, because just getting up and going to do something that you don't like, that's a bad exhausted. So I completely feel what you're saying. Is like, yeah, part of the being exhausted from doing heart work is the, self-care. Like, I feel like I'm part of a team. I feel like I'm helping my community, and doing those things. So thank you so much for sharing that. As you were saying that, I'm like, man, I hear what he's saying, because that makes me, when I go to bed, I'm dead tired. I'm thinking, but I did what I love today. Like, I I didn't waste my time. I did exactly what I wanted to do. That's a good tired. And praise be to God. Good for you.
Yeah.
Chris.
Yeah, for me, I like to just I give myself a lot of time, right? I'm kind of like a thinker, or just kind of give myself time in a corner to just think and decompress personally. But I check in with family. I check in with the people I live with, the people I care about, and just make sure they're still okay. Like the other night, I was just FaceTiming my niece and making sure that the world was still turning, right, and that everything was going on, everything was going fine, and just recentering myself is how I decompress with the work of the community, and ultimately it's also thinking and reminding myself that the good that we are doing, the help that we're doing, whether it's remembering people's faces when they're handing them X amount of dollars through gift cards or food, or even just managing spreadsheets, that the good vastly outweighs the stress, right?
Yeah. Awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you, Chris. That question, by the way, came from David Utone. And so we're going to go to Neomai for your answer.
So I did work a full-time 8-hour job, and also coming home and doing this, as well as going to class at night. And just like Papu and Chris talked about, when you do something that is going to help not only myself, but it's also helping, I'm going to be able to help our community. It really ignites your, just that mind, body, and spirit, and that mana inside us. You think about our ancestors and all that they had to do day in and day out, and in all their magnificence, and they did it not even thinking. So sometimes if I am exhausted, I have my dog, and I'll take a walk in the evening time just to kind of decompress and just kind of let everything just settle in. And because dogs are so loyal, they love you. And my poor little baby, she's right by my side, and I know she has COVID, but I often think, like, my husband's in a different room. I quarantine in a different room. And so I think about the love of dogs. It is so unconditional that even I tried to tell her I have COVID, and she just comes and licks my hands and then snuggles with me. And I think about, like, this is exactly our relationships with our family, that no matter what, they're willing to get COVID with us and then just like ride the waves, no matter what. I wish they can open up the hospitals so I can go and do that with my mom. But I mean, I'm trying to, like, just decompress myself, but I'm just asking for your prayers because it's really hard. I think I'll be better off after my mom is better and that we get over this COVID. But it's really just my dog that's keeping me whole at this time. So I'm grateful for that.
I love our fur babies. I have a dog too, so I just love her. And by the way, they have a COVID-19 vaccine for dogs. So that's awesome. From what I understand, COVID doesn't hit our pets as hard as it hits humans. But thank you, Neomai. And of course, we're going to keep your parents and your family in prayers, as well as you, Chris and Papu. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We appreciate your time. We appreciate your space. And, we're just great. And I'm sorry, I'm such a crybaby. So when I hear how amazing your bios were, I was like blown away. I'm like, I'm so proud that this generation is involved in the community, involved in this pandemic that's going on, and that you actually care about our people to put your foot forward and sometimes risk your life, picking up food and handing it out and getting those gift cards. So thank you so much for all that you guys do to help your own community. So we appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, everybody. Neomai, thank you for reminding us that one of the toughest things to do in life is to live up to who your dog thinks you are. Because you're your dog's hero no matter what. No matter how late you come in, no matter how dirty, wet your clothes are, whatever, or sick, your dog loves you unconditionally. So there's a reminder for that for all the animal lovers out there. I am one of them. We have kept Neomai 9 minutes longer than we should because she's got someplace to be spiritually and by voice. That's very important. So we're going to wrap this up. Thank you so much. It is an honor to share space with the three of you. Hopefully Koviki Talk or the next series we do, we have you back because it's inspiring for me to see the work that you all are doing. So Neomai, Papu, Chris, thank you so much. Koviki Talk episode 13 with the community health workers is brought to you by Pacific Islander Center of Primary Care Excellence, PICOPSI, and that's a champion ally of the Pacific Islander community. Thank you so much and have a great evening.
Take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you.